All right. So here's your warm up. Just a reminder, I have talked to McKenna about her missing her quiz on Friday. Anybody else going to miss Friday? Okay. Did we talk about it?
Not yet.
What? Okay. Are you going to be here next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we could take it on Monday next week if you want. Sound good? Do you have a study hall?
I don't.
Lunch?
Yeah.
What period? We'll take it fourth on Monday if that works for you. Does that work for you? Okay, bring your lunch with you. Okay, yes, sir. You're missing Friday too? What's going on Friday?
I have my wisdom.
Oh.
Yes, I don't know.
Okay, so you might want to take it Thursday.
Yeah.
I thought you were just missing for something like fun. That's no fun. Okay. I'm gonna talk to me after class. Yeah. I'll talk to you. What are you missing for? Huh? I still. Okay. Are you not getting your wisdom teeth pulled, are you? Okay, just go to the dentist or something. So, is it really? Ooh, that sucks. That sucks. You want to do it Thursday? Okay. See me after class. We'll talk about it. Okay. All right. Anybody else missing Friday? All right. So let's take a look up here. Long division. I wouldn't classify this as hard. I would classify it as tedious. And tedious in the sense that if you mess something up early on, then you're in trouble the whole way through. Okay? And so that is kind of where we get into trouble. So when we have this 2x to the fourth minus 5x plus 4 divided by that trinomial, which one goes on? My board has not been working right. I don't know my Gen Yesers if it could be my cable, my HDMI cable. I don't know. All right, Kaden, what are you going to put on the inside?
2x4 plus 0x3.
Hang on. See, it just slid it. So let me. It's been so goofy. Try it again. All right, let me slide this. Come on. All right, 2x to the, what'd you say?
4
Uh-huh.
plus 0x plus 0x squared minus 5x
Minus 5x, and then what?
plus 4.
Plus 4. So guys, it really, 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 really is important to put your zeros in places for placeholders. Then on the outside, you have what?
X squared minus 3x plus 7.
Okay, so you're going to start by asking yourself, what do you multiply x squared by to get to 2x to the fourth? And what do you multiply by?
2x squared.
2x squared. Now distribute this to all three terms. So when you distribute it here, you get what?
2x to the 4th
2x to the fourth, then what?
plus 6x to the
Well, it would be originally minus 6x to the third, and then what?
plus 4x squared.
And then you come in and you change all your signs. So we subtract, which means we change this to minus, this to plus, this to minus. What happens here? What do you have left here?
6x squared minus 4x minus
Perfect. Okay? Karina, what are you going to multiply x squared by to get to 6x to the third? 6x. Positive 6x plus 6x. Now distribute. What do you get?
6x cubed.
Uh-huh.
Negative 18x squared.
Uh-huh.
And then positive 12x.
Perfect. And now you're going to come in and do what?
Subtract.
Change all the signs. So subtract. This becomes negative. That becomes positive. That becomes negative. What happens to your 6x to the thirds?
Cancel.
What is negative 4x squared plus 18x squared?
14x squared.
14x squared. What do you have here? Negative 5 and negative 12.
Negative 7. Wait, no, negative 17.
X plus 4. Okay, you guys good so far? All right, now Jordan, you're next. What are you going to multiply x squared by to get to 14x squared? Positive 14. And these got big because I just made this up in my head and that's what we ended up with. So now when you distribute, what's x squared times 14? 14x squared. Now what do you get when you do 14 times negative 3? 14 times 3?
Wait. 42.
Negative 42x. And then what do you get when you do 14 times 2? Positive 28. Now we got to come in, Jordan, and do what? Change. So this becomes negative, this becomes positive, this becomes negative. What happens to my 14x squareds? They cancel. What's negative 17 plus 42? 25x. And what's 4 minus 28? Negative 24. Now, somebody asked a good question. How do I know when I'm done again? You are done when the degree of this is less than the degree of your divisor. So we're done. We're done. So now, how do I write the answer? Well, what'd you guys all get up there? You got what? Hang on. All jumpy again. So we got 2x squared plus 6x plus 14 plus what? 25x minus 24 all over what? Minus 3x plus. If you could do that one, that is truly as hard as they're going to get. Hard as they're going to get. Okay? Questions? Any questions on the homework? All right, pass those in. All right, so I'm going to be honest about long division. There are some things that just, we teach you, but then they kind of go away. Long division is one of them, okay? It is not something, once you get past my class, you will ever really do again, okay? And some of you are like, thank goodness, all right? There is another way to divide polynomials, and I recently I took a group of kids, they were juniors and a lot of seniors, to a math competition over at Stark State about a week and a half ago, and they use synthetic division a ton. So synthetic division, which is what I'm going to show you here in a minute, is a method that you will use all through your rest of your math career. So synthetic division is big. And synthetic division is a shorthand way of dividing a polynomial by a linear binomial. So that's what's important. That last problem we just did for warm-up, can't use this method because we were dividing by a trinomial. So you couldn't do this. But if you are dividing by a linear binomial, x plus 3, x minus 5, 2x plus 1, then you can use synthetic division. For synthetic division to work, the polynomial must be written in standard form, and you have to use zeros for any coefficient of missing terms. Okay? The divisor must be in the form x minus a. Okay? So this is one of those things that's almost easier once we just start doing them, because when I first show it to you, you kind of go, huh? But then once I show it to you, it's not too bad. If I divide 2x squared plus 7x plus 9 by x plus 2, the way you set this up, you take the coefficients here, 2, 7, and 9, and you put them here. Now, I always draw an upside down box. It's just how I was taught. I draw an upside down box, and I do 2, 7, 9. So those go there, okay? And then you take your divisor, and your divisor was x plus 2, and you set it equal to 0. And when you set it equal to 0, what does x equal? X is equal to what? -2. And that's how I got the number here. So that's the setup. Okay? Then the way that you solve this, okay? You bring this down. Bring the 2 down. And now you multiply. What's 2 times -2? -4. So 2 times -2, you multiply. 2 times -2, 2 times -2 is -4. And then you add, what's 7 plus -4? 3. And then you do it again. What's 3 times -2? -6. And then you add and you get what? 3. And that's your remainder. So I always put this little box the way they did. There's my remainder. So do you guys understand the math? I know you don't understand how to interpret the answer yet. So once again, I put 279. X was equal to -2. Brought the 2 down. Multiply, add, multiply, add. Are you guys okay with how to get those numbers? Now, how do we interpret them? You divided this polynomial by a monomial. Anytime you divide by a monomial, you will take this down by 1 degree. So if you knock it down a degree, how many x's would you have? 1. So my answer is 2x plus 3. This is my remainder, so it'd be plus 3 over your divisor. And there's your answer. So if you were to use long division, that's what you would get. In all honesty, you guys struggle the hardest with interpreting the answer from this. Okay, interpreting the answer. Best way to do it is let's just try, couple. Divide. Okay? Divide using synthetic division. So Jack, you have to redo that homework tonight. Make sure you use long division on last night's, okay? Tonight's homework, you can use synthetic division. So let's set this up. All right, numbers on the inside, making sure you put zeros for missing terms. So what goes on the inside, guys? 3, then what? -1, then what? 0, then what? And then what? Okay, let me show you how I got that. I got 3x to the 4th minus 1x to the 3rd plus 0x squared plus 5x minus 1. Now, what goes on the outside? When I set this equal to 0, what is x really equal to? So what goes on the outside? Are you guys okay with the setup? Now let's solve it. Okay? Bring the 3 down. Just take this first one and bring it down. Now multiply. What's 3 times -2? -6. Now add. What's -1 plus -6? -7. Now multiply. What's -7 times -2? 14. Now what? Add. What's 0 plus 14? Now what do we do again with 14? Multiply what? 14 and -2. What do you get? -28. Add. -23. Multiply. What's -23 times -2? 46. Add. And I always box that last number in because that last number should be my remainder. Okay, so everybody understand how we got the numbers. Now let's interpret the answer. You're always dividing by a linear binomial, by a degree of 1. If you divide by a degree of 1, that means this x to the 4th is going to go down to 3x to the what? 3x to the 3rd. Then it would be minus what? 7x squared plus 14x, and then my constant is minus 23. Now, that should always be your constant if you did that right. So it should go 3, 2, 1, constant. What's my remainder? So plus 45 over my divisor, x plus 2. So if you were to do all that long division, that's what you would get. And that is so much sweeter. Okay, you're going to see why we're dividing after, I don't know if it's after break or if it's right before Thanksgiving break, but you'll see why we divide. We divide a ton to solve polynomial equations. Are we good? All right, let's work on setting this one up. Okay, what numbers go on the inside? Quinn.
1, -3, and -18.
Good. I didn't have any holes, so I was good. Now my divisor, when I set that equal to 0, x is equal to what?
6.
So what goes out here? Okay, help me solve it. What are you going to do first?
Bring the 1 down.
Bring the 1 down. Multiply, you get? It's 1 times 6.
6.
Now add, you get what?
3.
Multiply, you get?
18.
Add, you get what?
0.
Oh, what's that mean if the remainder is 0?
No remainder.
No remainder. It divided equally. Yes. So now let's interpret our answer. We started with x squared, but when you divide by an x, you go down to 1x, or just x plus what? You have no remainder. You're done. Okay, you guys try C. See if you can do C. Watch for holes. All right, Laura, what'd you put on the inside?
1, 0, -3, and 5.
1, 0x squared, -3x, and 5. And then what'd you put on the outside? -2. Okay, bring down the 1, multiply,
-2.
add,
-2.
multiply,
-4.
add,
1.
multiply,
-2.
add,
3.
3. Okay. Write the answer. So we started with x to the,
Third.
so this tells me my answer is
X squared minus 2x minus 1, or plus 1, sorry. And then plus 3 over x plus 2.
how'd you guys do? Is this so much easier than long division? I think so. Okay, I think so. What'd you do wrong? Do you have 1, 0, -3, -5? Did you bring down the 1? Did you multiply to get -2? Did you add to get -2? Did you multiply to get +4? Oh, and then you had -4 here. Because a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, anybody else need me to help find mistakes? Okay, this next part, if I go back to here, you guys said this divided evenly, right? Do me a favor, evaluate this when x is 6. What do I mean? If I gave you just this, and I said evaluate it when x is 6, what do I want you to do? plug in 6. So you would do 6 squared, that's 36, minus 3 times 6, that's minus 18, minus another 18. Well, what's 36 minus 18 minus 18? 0. Well, maybe that only works when it divides evenly. I don't know. Let's try this. When x is -2. When x equals -2. Let's try this one. So we're going to come in here and I'm going to do -2 raised to the third minus 3 times -2 plus 5. What do I get? What do you think I'm going to get if I evaluate this one when x is -2? Yep, 45. Okay, this is what we call the remainder theorem. You can use synthetic division to evaluate polynomials. This process is called synthetic substitution. The process of synthetic substitution is exactly the same as synthetic division, but you interpret the answer differently. So for example, if I want you to divide this polynomial by that, we could say the value of the polynomial at 3 is 7. The value of the polynomial at 3 is 7. So how does that look for here? This is going to be a quiz question on Friday. Use synthetic substitution. So you have to show synthetic substitution to evaluate for the given variable. So let's set it up. We're going to set it up the same way we did for division, synthetic division. You have to fill in zeros for holes if you have zeros for holes. So how many x cubes? 2. How many x squareds? How many x's? And then 7. Now, you have to be careful because what does it tell you here? It doesn't say divided by x plus 2. It says x equals 2. So what goes on the outside? Just 2 because it says x what? Equals. Notice here, what did I do to each of these? Set them equal to 0. X is equal to what? So you always put out here what x is equal to. So if it's not given to you, set it equal to 0, solve. Set it equal to 0 and solve. This one, it's given to me, so I put the 2. All right, so now let's evaluate this. So Chloe, bring down the 2, multiply, add, multiply, add, multiply, add, 41. Now, it didn't ask you to divide. If it asked you to divide by x minus 2, you would give me the answer, but it says evaluate it. So, P at 2 is equal to what? 41. What does that mean, guys? And how could you check it on the quiz on Friday? Plug in 2. 2 times 2 raised to the third plus 5 times 2 squared minus 2 plus 7. 41. It's just another way. It's going to become very important next week when we start solving these for x. Okay, so we're just kind of getting to where we're headed. We're not there yet. Now, don't touch your calculators. And we're like, what? Fractions without my calculator? This is apples. Okay, watch. What are you guys going to put out here? -1/3. Now, do you have any holes?
Yeah.
So how many x to the fourths? How many x to the thirds? How many x squareds? How many x's? How many constants? Now watch. Some of you are like, how can I do multiply by a third without my calculator? Bring the 6 down. To multiply by a third is to the same thing as what? Divide by 3, or -3 in this case. So, multiply, divide by -3. What do you guys get? -2. Add, -27. Now multiply, divide by -3. What do I get? 9. Add, Multiply by 1, negative 1/3. Divide by negative 3. What do you get? Negative 3. Add. Negative what? 6. Multiply, which means divide by negative 3. What do you get? 2. Add, you get what? So the value at negative 1/3 is what? Guys, I honestly think that's easier than trying to put that negative 1/3 in my calculator all those times with all those parentheses and ugh. But your call. Questions? All right, 10 minutes. Not a whole lot. Get started. Yes.